In this lecture, you'll move from risk concepts to real-world execution. You'll learn how to perform a practical cybersecurity risk assessment, document your findings, and apply risk treatment strategies that align with your organization's goals. Most importantly, you'll gain confidence in leading risk discussions with clear and structured thinking. As a security leader, you're expected to not just understand risk, you're expected to act on it as well. That means guiding your team through structured assessments and help business leaders make informed decisions and ensure risk is tracked, treated, and communicated effectively. By mastering this, you'll become a leader that people turn to when risk needs to be clarified, prioritized, and owned. There are essentially 6 steps in a practical risk assessment. Let's walk through the simple, actionable process. When you're leading a practical cybersecurity risk assessment, your job goes beyond filling in templates. You're guiding the organization through a structured process that turns technical concerns into business decisions. It all begins with identifying what you're protecting. This means working across teams to inventory your critical assets, from cloud infrastructure to customer data, from proprietary code to HR platforms. You'll likely rely on tools like ServiceNow, CMDB, Microsoft Purview, or Azure Resource Graph to get a clear picture of your environment. But more importantly, you'll lead the conversation to understand which assets truly matter to the business and who owns them. Next, you focus on identifying what could go wrong, means the threats. Here, your role is to facilitate threat modeling and bring threat intelligence into the discussion. You'll use resources like the MITRE ATIC framework to map out tactics used by real-world adversaries and platforms like Microsoft Defender Threat Intelligence to monitor current threat activity in your sector. You're not doing this alone. Actually, you're creating shared understanding by involving DevOps, information technology teams, and legal in these conversations. Once threats are identified, it's time to assess what weaknesses exist. You'll oversee regular vulnerability scans, posture assessments, and misconfiguration checks using tools like Nessus, Qualys, or Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Your job is to ensure findings are prioritized, not just listed, and that teams focus on the risks that are exploitable and impactful, not just the ones with the most alerts. Now, you turn your attention to estimating likelihood and impact. This is where your leadership makes the biggest difference. You help your team and the wider business think in structured, consistent ways. Whether you're using qualitative scales like high/medium/low or quantitative models like FAIR, your job is to bring clarity. You'll likely use GRC platforms like ServiceNow Risk Management or tools like RiskLens for financial quantification. But the real value you bring is helping others interpret these scores through the lens of business impact and organizational risk appetite. As scores are assigned, you make sure everyone uses a consistent model. You're the one who ensures alignment, that a high score in DevOps means the same thing to the compliance team. You might adopt a CVSS-based scale for technical risks, or a custom rubric tailored to your organization's priorities. You also help visualize the data using dashboards or heat maps, maybe in Power BI or your GRC tool, so stakeholders can easily see where the biggest risks lie. Finally, you document and prioritize. This is where your leadership becomes operational. You guide your team in building a risk register, tracking who owns each risk, what actions are being taken, and when reviews are due. You might use Word or Excel initially, but mature organizations will track this in platforms like SharePoint, ServiceNow, or OneTrust. The most important thing you do here is help the business focus and help decision makers understand which risks matter now, which can wait, and which need their attention at the next governance review. Throughout this entire process, you're not just managing a checklist. You're enabling clarity, accountability, and alignment. That's what makes you a modern security leader. You're helping your organization face risk with eyes wide open and act on it with confidence. As a security leader, one of your most powerful tools is the Risk Register, which is a living document that helps you bring clarity, structure, and accountability to your risk management efforts. You'll create and maintain this register to track all essential risk details in one place. For each asset or system, you'll document the identified risk, assign a risk rating based on likelihood and impact, and designate an owner who's responsible for mitigation. You'll also update the mitigation status and set a review date to ensure follow-through. This isn't just record keeping, it's leadership in action. Your risk register becomes the foundation for structured reviews and help you guide conversations with stakeholders, prioritize resources, and clearly communicate your organization's risk posture to leadership and governance teams. It shows where you stand, what's being done, and where support is needed, all in one place. As a security leader, you won't be expected to eliminate every risk, and you shouldn't try to. Instead, your job is to decide how to treat each risk based on business priorities, risk appetite, and available resources. Let's explore 4 standard risk treatment options that every mature organization uses. When you mitigate, you apply controls to reduce either the likelihood or the impact of the risk. For example, implementing MFA or segmentation. When you transfer, you shift the responsibility through means like cyber insurance or third-party contracts. Sometimes, you'll need to accept a risk, formally acknowledging it, documenting it, and monitoring it if the cost of mitigation outweighs the risk itself. And in some cases, you may choose to avoid the risk entirely by changing or stopping the risky activity altogether. Throughout this process, you'll learn how to align each response with your organization's risk appetite and tolerance, ensuring that decisions are not just technically sound, but also strategically aligned. Not all risks need fixing, but every risk needs a clear, informed decision. As a security leader, you should confidently run a risk review meeting that brings the right people together and drives meaningful decisions. You'll invite key stakeholders, from IT and product teams to legal and executive leadership, to ensure that risks are seen from multiple perspectives. Your presentation won't just be a list of risks. Instead, you'll highlight the top concerns, the current status of mitigation efforts, and clearly outline the decisions that need to be made. You'll make the meeting interactive by encouraging discussion and aligning each risk to business impact, making it more relevant and engaging for non-technical participants. Remember, you're not there to read out risk scores. You're there to spark action and accountability, and that doesn't stop at the meeting table. You'll also explore how to connect your risk findings directly to ongoing policy enforcement, internal audit prep, strategic planning, and regulatory compliance frameworks like ISO, NIST, or SOC2. This is where risk assessment transforms from a static document into a leadership instrument that supports governance, transparency, and trust. So, what's your leadership takeaway? When you run a risk review, your success is measured by clarity and commitment. If everyone walks out knowing which risks matter, who owns them, and what happens next, you're doing it right. Don't forget to download the sample risk register worksheet provided in the Resources tab. You'll use it to practice scoring risks, build out a basic risk register, recommend appropriate treatment strategies. While the current example is shared in Word format for demonstration, most organizations use Excel for maintaining and tracking risk registers. Feel free to convert this template and expand it with additional fields that fit your specific needs, such as risk owner, mitigation deadlines, or control references. Remember, the goal here isn't to provide a one-size-fits-all tool, but to give you a solid starting point for building a risk management process that fits your environment.